Coming up on Tech News Today, Tesla's car for the masses is coming for your money. Robots can do a lot of crazy things, but they can't stay at Alphabet anymore. What South by Southwest is severely lacking this year. Open sourcing dental work for 3D printers and so much more. Tech News Today is next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1472, recorded Thursday, March 17th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace which connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/TNT to apply for your loan now.
And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT.
And by Score Big. Pay less for quality seats to your favorite sporting and music events. Go to scorebig.com, click on the microphone, and enter promo code TNT to save $20 off your first ticket purchase.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about self-driving cars and we talk about Nintendo and
like VR,
GIFs,
in front of your face,
GIFs, all the things.
All of it.
I am Megan Morrone.
And I am Jason Howell, or as the Nintendo app that we're going to talk about later calls me, I am Raygun01. It's a really cool app. We're going to talk all about it.
Is it a really cool app?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
Okay.
I honestly, we'll talk about it. I installed it and I had a hard time stopping playing
Okay.
with it. Welcoming actually back to the show, Tim Stevens from CNET's Roadshow and the Autocomplete podcast. How's it going, Tim?
It's going great. Thanks, Jason. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It's always a pleasure to get you on the show. Tell us a little bit about Autocomplete.
Autocomplete is our weekly podcast at Roadshow, where Brian Cooley and I go through the weekend news. We usually keep it pretty short, about 20, 25 minutes. We just run down the top 10 or so news stories of the week and give you a preview of things to come on Roadshow.
Fantastic. People just go to cnet.com/roadshow and then look for Autocomplete there?
Yep, that'll do. Or theroadshow.com. We should be in iTunes in the very near future, finally.
Excellent. Excellent. Cool. Well, we've got a couple of your stories actually a little bit later in the show to talk about some of the automotive stuff. This is like back-to-back days of automotive news. Exciting. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about robots. Boston Dynamics, the robotics arm of Alphabet, is, according to sources anyways, about to be put up for sale. Boston Dynamics was acquired by Google in 2013, was led by ex-Android lead Andy Rubin for around a year before he left. And then ever since then, the group has kind of had a bunch of leadership fluctuations. It's kind of affected the company's focus. And yeah, it's kind of looking like they're working to give the robots the boot, kick them out, which that could be dangerous. What do you think, Tim?
It's pretty fascinating. This was a part of, Google made a big acquisition of, I think it was like 7 or 10 different AI and robotics companies in kind of in one shot. And Boston Dynamics was kind of the gem in that pile that they got. And so, Boston Dynamics has definitely been the one that's making the most PR anyway when it comes to posting crazy videos of robots doing scary / impressive things. So, for them to lose them is a bit of a challenge, but I guess they're having some sort of issues internally about short-term goals versus long-term goals. And I know that it was a bit of a controversial step for them to step away from some rather lucrative military contracts too. I have to wonder if that doesn't play into this somehow.
Oh, very interesting, right?
Yeah, I'm curious if this is really a revenue decision or if it's a PR decision, because I do think, that's sort of what some of the sources said, that, that shows like ours talk a lot about how great these robots are, but how terrifying they are to see something acting like an animal or a human. And so, we add a little bit of fuel to that fire, I think. So I wonder if they're letting them go for that reason. Brad Stone, who reported this in Bloomberg, says that Alphabet is reining in the Moonshots program. He calls this new policy Moonshots with discipline, which I thought was interesting. Like that sort of just, they don't want anything. They're not going to just do anything crazy that's not going to bring in revenue. So I guess it's maybe a new stage for Alphabet.
Yeah. Does the adage of any publicity is good publicity work here? Because I feel like Boston Dynamics, right? Like especially in the kind of the tech sphere, anytime they put out a video, everybody's talking about it, and we're all floored at what we're watching because it just feels like the future when you're watching a Boston Dynamics robot doing its crazy things and getting kicked and not falling over and figuring out how to traverse through really bumpy, territory wherever it happens to be. But like you said, commonly the conversation ends up in this place where just we as human beings, are we ready for robots? Because as fascinated as we seem to be by them, we also kind of a lot of times can't help but, I don't know, at least for me, be slightly terrified at kind of the reality of what I'm seeing. And maybe it's just being scared of the unknown, but there's a little bit of that, and it seems like Google or Alphabet doesn't necessarily need to be playing in a field where people are terrified of what might be to come.
I can't help but thinking if they would just stop kicking the robots, maybe we wouldn't have this feeling about those videos. I mean, I'm kind of being funny, but honestly, it is a little bit true. It definitely gives a little bit of a different character to the videos when you see the humans actively trying to mess with them, basically. Maybe if they just gave them a nice obstacle course or had them do helpful things, we'd be thinking a little bit differently about the videos.
Well, they were also the robot dog that we saw a few weeks ago that was like fighting with Andy Rubin's actual dog. They had to literally put them out to pasture. I mean, they weren't working. They were too loud. They were supposed to be military robots that would help out in the field, but they made too much noise. And so they're not
Who cares?
working.
They're robots.
Right.
If anyone can make too much noise, robots can. I have an idea. An idea. Instead of kicking them over, we pit them against each other in American Ninja Warrior, the TV show, and that will show just their prowess without humans hitting them with things and kicking them and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what this means for Boston Dynamics if this ends up happening or whatever, but I'm kind of bummed. I really wanted to see Boston Dynamics robots roaming the fields at this year's Google I/O, and now I don't think it's going to happen.
Sad. All right, well, let's move on. Microsoft says they are pleased to be rolling out Windows 10 Mobile to select Windows Phone 8.1 devices. That's today, starting with select Lumia and Nokia phones. The rollout will happen in a somewhat similar fashion as the Windows 10 rollout happened. You can check the Upgrade Advisor to see if your phone is eligible to upgrade. Lots of people will be really excited to get in the beginning, and then eventually they will probably force it on everyone, whether you like it or not. So, yeah, I mean, not much fanfare in this Windows 10 Mobile rollout, but it's coming.
It's coming, and not all devices on the old OS are necessarily being upgraded, as should be the case, right? Like Microsoft is kind of cautiously pushing, the upgrade out to devices that can at least handle it. So hopefully that means that anybody that's actually getting the upgrade won't end up with a device that's less, functional as a result because the hardware behind it just can't run it.
And you can buy a Lumia phone, and you have been able to buy Lumia phones
for a little bit.
with Windows 10 Mobile already on them.
I don't know. What do you think, Tim? Was this a little too long? I mean, it took a while for this to happen.
Yeah. A year since.
It took a real long time. Yeah. I mean, it's great. The whole effort behind platform unification is, of course, a great thing for developers, for users, for everybody else. But yeah, the lack of fanfare and the amount of time it took to make this happen really kind of questions or certainly undermines the value of the effort altogether. Right. The platform feels very weak and getting weaker by the day, and ultimately, I don't think this is really helping anything. But ultimately, getting more things on the same platform will help things overall, and we'll see if maybe they get a little bit of traction from it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an amazing operating system. It could be a wonderful mobile operating system, and it might be too late.
Well, Microsoft does have its eggs in other baskets as well. I mean, they're making a lot of. I know every time that Microsoft Garage releases an app for Android, like my attention is on it because it's always quality. They're really focused. They're not just throwing stuff on Android because they feel like they need to, or maybe they are. And if they are doing that, they're really good at it because their quality is really high. It really seems like they're kind of hedging their bets and going, okay, well, we're doing this, but we're also doing this, and maybe in the long term that protects them for whatever the the outcome becomes in the world of Windows 10 Mobile. So talk about it just very briefly at the top of the show. Nintendo has finally released a mobile app for both Android and iOS in one of those hell-freezing over kind of moves. Miitomo is a Japan-only release at the moment, It's less of a game. It's really more of a social network. I was able to install it. Let me see here. Let me get to it. There it is. So basically, if you have, Nintendo, if you've played the Nintendo Wii or anything like that, you're very familiar with kind of your Miis. And using this, you can sync it up to, this is my Mii, by the way. See, I'm tall and slanky. You can sync it up to your Nintendo account if you have a Mii already, or you can go through the process of creating it, which is very, very detailed. You can select. Obviously, you can kind of paint yourself, and there's actually a mode where you can take a pic. You turn on the camera, and it tries to match all of the different features based on what it sees you to be. But you can craft your Mii, and then I'm gonna back out of here. You can give it a voice, so it has all these voice settings, so that when it talks to you, when you tap on it, let's see, is he gonna? Oh no, here. This is what we were playing around with earlier. Here. No, never mind. No, it isn't. I can't get to the thing we were playing around with earlier, but basically it talks to you. And then if you have your friends in here, which I don't have any friends, but if I did, they would be in here, and I could actually have kind of me conversations with them. So it's kind of like a social network. I don't know. A first effort for Nintendo on mobile devices, though, and that's notable.
Right. Is it a game, like gamifying social networks?
I suppose. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, if you were... Here, I'm going to turn it off because the music's starting to distract me. If you were playing on the Nintendo Wii, this is just your environment, period, right? Like, you're playing on a game system, so you would expect that if you had a social network on the Nintendo Wii, it would kind of be like this. So it's kind of taking that environment but bringing it to your phone in a much more of an animated sort of way. I don't know what this leads to, though. I don't know what the goal is with an app like this.
Yeah, it almost feels like they're starting to develop a platform. Certainly this is establishing a presence, but can they develop a platform? And ultimately, what they need to do is continue to maintain that Nintendo way of doing things. And ultimately, if they're not selling hardware in the distant future, maybe this is how they kind of bridge that gap by instead having a platform of games that exist in a separate store or something like that on mobile devices. You have your separate group of friends and achievements and all that good stuff. Maybe that's what they're pointing to, but it's a little hard to tell from what is a very simple app at this point.
Yeah. I will say that some of the text, like minor quibbles, but some of the text that was rendered on the device was really kind of fuzzy. Like I expected everything to be super sharp, and like the animations of the graphics of your Mii and everything, that all looks good. But some of the words just looked really kind of fuzzy and I don't know, soft focus. But aside from that, Nintendo's pretty known for creating pretty quality stuff. So having them in the mobile space, creating stuff for mobile devices, I mean, this is by no means like the next Legend of Zelda game or anything like that. It's totally not a game, but one could hope that eventually they could take their kind of prowess in creating very engaging games and apps and stuff and create something like it.
Well, they said they were never going to create a mobile game.
Well, they should.
But they poo-pooed the idea a long time ago, back when everyone didn't realize mobile, everyone had to create something on mobile. So now they've created something different on mobile. We'll see. We don't know when it's going to come anywhere besides Japan.
Well, they said global release sometime potentially later this month. So I don't really know. Obviously, I was able to get it. You can VPN if you really want to and get it, say you're from Japan, through a VPN, and it's pretty easy to get. But worth checking out for sure. And I'm curious to see what they follow it up with.
All right. Tinder has provided internal data to BuzzFeed that proves that you are 30% more likely to get a response on Tinder if you use a GIF. You're also 30% more likely to get a response on Tinder if you use a GIF.
Oh. See, I thought it was a typo in the prompt.
No.
Less likely to get a response if you argue with your matched person about GIF versus GIF.
Right, you are. Yeah. I mean, you could get a certain kind of response. I mean, I like to. I'm not on Tinder, but I do like to argue about GIFs and GIFs. So yeah, important news here.
So is this
on Tinder?
Is this to say that like the animated GIF is like the modern day pickup line? Like you walk into a bar, you got a really good pickup line. I know this is going to work. She's going to give me her number. But on Tinder, I guess it's animated GIF is the solution there. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the point is that it tells more about your personality, perhaps.
Yeah.
I find I use them not on Tinder, but on Twitter now you can, and I use them in Slack, and it's just, I mean, we communicate so much. So like, how often can you just say like thanks, or I appreciate it, or talk to you soon, or all the things that you say over and over again? Sometimes you just need, Amy Schumer saying yes, yes, instead of me saying yes.
Tim, do you think that Tinder is kind of like the ripe, I suppose, network of sorts for the personality behind things like animated GIF?
Well, I haven't used Tinder myself either. I certainly enjoyed lots of interesting images on Reddit that have come from Tinder, though. So I'm something of an expert in the area. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like, any attempt at originality to difference yourself from the crowd helps. Taking an animated image from Full House or that kind of thing, maybe it won't differentiate yourself, but maybe if it's something, flexing your muscles or showing some amazing juggling skills or that kind of thing, I could see how that would attract a certain type of a match, perhaps.
I do wonder if they're going to bake in, or maybe they already have this. I don't know. I haven't used the app, but maybe they have the ability for you to create your own selfie animated GIF, because that actually, now that I think about it, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. This is all about you. It's about your personality and, convincing that person that you're awesome. So you could flex your own muscles in an animated GIF.
Yeah.
Someday that's free.
Like a live photo. I mean, I think, you can do that on Facebook in your profile too now.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is I think it's interesting because it used to be harder to make a GIF. Like you had to actually, you had to put pictures together. You had to know a little bit about technology.
It used to be so difficult.
And so it was a little bit of like showing off, like how geeky you were. Or like, look what I just did really fast, And now it's so easy. Now you just scroll, Facebook and Twitter just lets you actually search. And so it's a little bit, I don't wonder how long that's going to last because, you still look a little bit clever, even though, most people know that you just typed a search term in and then searched through and found that.
When does it become a fad again that like everybody's kind of over?
Yeah.
And then you're using it on Tinder and people are like, oh man, that dude's still using animated GIFs. Anyways, swipe, one of the ways. I don't remember what way you swipe if you don't like the person.
Well, it's still using. It's funny because they were popular, a decade ago. Like when, and then it came back.
It's very happy to be seeing its second.
So mainstream. I'm going to go back to CRT images and what was pre-VGA?
CGA. CGA.
I'm
I think it was like 4 colors. EGA. I think it was like 2.
That's how to be cool on Tinder.
Magenta and
yes, and like 8 pixels to make up an image. The Nextbit Robin, a phone I've lived with for a while and actually really enjoy for a number of reasons, including the fact that it just quite simply looks different from all the other phones I've ever played with, did today what I have to imagine the team really wished they could have avoided. Its CDMA version, which would enable the device to operate on the Verizon and Sprint networks here in the U.S., has been shelved. This after adding CDMA to its very successful Kickstarter campaign last year when the campaign was sailing high. The CDMA version had already kind of been delayed for a few months. The Nextbit's been out for a few months at this point, or at least a month, almost a month and a half at this point. In GSM version. And I guess the CDMA version just would have cost, in the millions to do. And I mean, the Kickstarter itself, and I realize Nextbit is, making money through their site, not just in the Kickstarter, but I mean, the Kickstarter itself was like 1 point some odd million. Just based on the Kickstarter. So when you're talking about a whole host of phones and that's going to run you into the millions and everything, it just didn't make sense to the Nextbit team, so they had to scrap it, which I know is really unfortunate. The team's made up of really smart people, people from Google, HTC, who've been doing this for a long time. They said they should have kind of been a little bit more, I suppose, a little bit more hesitant to accept the advice that they were given that this could actually happen the way they were expecting. What do you think about this, Tim?
If we'd all just gone GSM a long time ago here in the U.S., things would have been much easier, much like Europe. Would have solved so many problems that we've been dealing with all these incompatible networks and dead zones, and just another casualty of our unfortunate mobile network structure in the U.S.
Yeah.
So Verizon was too expensive, but why not Sprint? That was also too expensive for them to go on Sprint?
Well, I think, apparently so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same basic technology going to a CDMA based network. a lot of chipsets these days can do both on one chip. I presume they're not using one of those chipsets. So maybe that would mean, pretty drastic changes to the internal architecture of the device. And yeah, I could see that being very, very expensive indeed. And I have to also imagine that they probably had a small percentage of their backers that were looking for those devices anyway, which probably, I wouldn't be surprised if those two factors were working together to
Sure.
result in this decision.
High cost, less people wanting to hop on board. All the orders that were placed for CDMA versions are being refunded, I think, in the next couple of days. And then they're also going to get a coupon for 25% off the currently available device. So if somebody does want the Robin and they're willing to switch to GSM network, they can get 25% off, which is a nice price. I actually really like the phone. The cloud functionality aspect of it, which is arguably it's one of their key features. Personally, I don't know how useful it would be for me because I don't store a whole lot of stuff on my phone for that kind of dynamic cloud file management to be of super use, but it is to some people, so it's worth checking out. But man, that's got to be such a bummer to promise, and something like this on Kickstarter, and then after all this time have to kind of take it away. I'm sure they were very disappointed to have to do that. Mm-hmm. So up next, we're going to get a bit of a South by Southwest roundup from Wynter Mitchell, one of the hosts of the Pop Rocket podcast. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode. That's Prosper. In today's economy, cash really is king. So instead of getting stuck with high interest rate credit cards, all you got to do is go to prosper.com. Prosper's online marketplace connects people who need money with those who want to invest. And, they're investing in you. So it's kind of like a peer-to-peer situation here. It's like the Uber or the Airbnb for borrowing money. You can use Prosper to borrow up to $35,000 in as few as 5 days. With Prosper.com, you can borrow money for just about anything. You can pay off any of your high-rate credit cards. You can fix up your house. You might want to plan a vacation, get away for a little bit. Just saying, the beach sounds really good right now. Do you agree with me? Then here you go. Anything you want. It's your money. It's almost easier to list the things I wouldn't do with the money, only because there's so much to be done. But how about my pipe dream? I'd buy a ton of audio gear, sound treatment stuff. I'd open up a recording studio in my garage. Piece of cake. Thank you, Prosper. Prosper.com is the better way to get the cash that you need at a low interest rate. To check your low rate instantly without affecting your good credit, go to prosper.com/TNT and see what they got for you there for up to $35,000 in your account in as few as 5 days. Go to prosper.com/TNT. That's prosper.com/TNT. And we thank Prosper for their support.
The South by Southwest Interactive Festival just wrapped up in Austin, and Wynter Mitchell from Pop Rocket is here to give her take on this year's festival and how it reflects the tech world right now. Welcome, Wynter. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you, too. I feel like I'm back with family.
Full disclosure, Wynter was one of the amazing production coordinators at Tech TV, so maybe you remember her from back then. Now she's a digital consultant and a social media maven. Let's start with what is the next big thing in tech? What's last year was Meerkat. What was it this year? Was it anything?
I think the focus this year was really on, we've been oversaturated by applications. We've been oversaturated by what's going to be the next big thing. Meerkat certainly made a splash last year, and then it kind of, they went under the radar this year. I think users definitely still use the application, but I don't think it advanced to the level that people were expecting it to, especially since Facebook Live has taken over and sort of brought that instant access to a larger swath of your audience that's sort of on a platform dedicated consistently. I think lifestyles, embracing a lifestyle and the Uberification of not only applications, but being able to sort of enhance your life by having something immediate and being able to access it quickly. I think innovation in that sense was sort of built on a bigger platform and presented more clearly at South by this year. I think people are a little tired. You don't need more photo apps. You don't need another social network to join. You kind of are staying, if you're a long-term tech user, you're staying where you're going to be, and you've kind of staked your claim. there. So you're staying there. You're not really sort of going back and forth anywhere else other than where you're going to be. So I think the focus this year was really talking about how to enhance your current lifestyle with technology. Also, there was a lot of discussion about virtual reality. Samsung had a huge installation and activation. A lot of networks really put some money into making sure that they were represented during interactive as they went into film and music. And then also drones. There weren't a lot of drones in the air, but there was definitely a lot of drone discussion talking about that, especially in the case of when we're talking about privacy. Drone companies were there representing themselves, and then they were also joining into conversations about how their work, what they're doing to sort of work within the constraints of what the government is allowing them to do. So it was definitely more like how your lifestyle is being enhanced by technology versus here's another app, I'm going to shove it down your throat.
So, Tim, I know you were only there for one day, but did you get a similar feel when you were there at South by?
Yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately had to leave pretty early, so I didn't get to see too much. But VR was absolutely everywhere, which was pretty impressive to see. Wynter, was there one VR demo that kind of stood out to you as being ahead of the rest? Or was there anything that stood out to you in that regard?
I live in Hollywood, so I like dazzle and I like free drinks. So Samsung definitely put together an amazing and compelling case for what they're giving consumers. So I definitely think in the sense, if you're talking about getting this product to consumers quickly, Samsung made the best case for it. Obviously, people are trying to still figure out what they're going to do once they have these products. So I think Samsung was the best at demonstrating what can actually be done once you've gotten a hold of the hardware.
Speaking of Samsung, I know that one of their announces for South by Southwest was Samsung's Waffle app. Did you hear about the Waffle app at all? Like, I think Samsung probably had ambitions for this to potentially be the South by app of the year.
I didn't hear about it. So
okay.
It wasn't.
Well, there you go. There you go. It dropped off the face of the earth. I think it actually, personally, I think it kind of ties in with what you were saying, Wynter, which is just that at this point, an app like a social network, South by has been really good for social networks to kind of be born there and flourish. At least we have two really good examples of that, Twitter and Foursquare, I believe. And ever since then, there's been this expectation year after year that South by is going to have some major thing that's going to, blossom and grow, and it's going to be the thing we're going to be talking about for the next 10 years. But that really just kind of doesn't happen at this point. I don't know. Was there any sort of kind of on the street vibe as far as the quality of the show? Were people disappointed that there was no breakout? Something?
I think that South by Interactive is still getting its bearings in Austin. And I think that what I felt like there wasn't as many people this year, I feel, that were, I know a lot of companies were hesitant about sending staff and sending representatives there. I think that has to do with a lot of things. It's expensive. Let's just be honest. It's not something that can be done in an economical way, really, without a lot of planning. But I also think that if you don't have anything to really talk about, and there's not like an update to your app, or there's not a new product announcement about the application, and especially because a lot of the larger platforms are still kind of in this weird growing pains, Twitter in particular, I think it's better to just stay away and kind of not make yourself known if you can help it, because you don't want to have people start asking a ton of questions. So I think, a lot of companies were down there, but they weren't readily to just get on the stage and start talking, interjecting themselves into anything without a huge announcement to follow it.
Right.
So since Tech TV, you've worked in the film industry. Has the interactive, is it bigger, or is it still smaller than the film part of South by?
I think that there's starting to become a lot of overlap. A lot of movie premieres are happening during interactive because so many influencers are in town for the interactive portion. So like Key and Peele's Keanu, they had a special screening Saturday night. Then Mike and Dave, they had a screening and party and coordinated with Funny or Die on Sunday night. So there's a lot of overlap, because I feel like if you have the attention of influencers and journalists who talk about social media, and the industry, the film industry, honestly, is dependent now on social media to sort of be the word of mouth. I think that there's becoming an overlap, and I really fully see going forward that this is just going to be across the board one of those things where they all just merge into one another. I know that there's like a split down the middle. Some people really don't like the interactive audience, that the visitors that come to Austin, and some people really enjoy the music people much more. But I'm seeing that there's a lot less money in music and film, and there's a lot more money being applied to the interactive portion in terms of advertising and sponsorships.
So a few months ago, South by Southwest kind of had this tone-deaf mistake where they were, it had to do with online harassment panels, where they were inviting people and then they were getting threats, and it was kind of just a mess. But they ended up kind of recovering by saying they were going to have a summit. Now, you went to some of those panels. What was the turnout like?
It was sparse, to say the least. I'd say for a room that can hold about 200, there would be about between 10 to 20 people in the room. It was disheartening. I think that would be the best word to say, is disheartening.
So is that the result of disengagement, or is that a result of kind of like the fallout of the kind of the public relations aspect of everything that happened a couple of months ago? Why do you think?
I think it's both. I think it's logistical. First of all, it was off site from the Austin Convention Center, which is, wasn't that far away. I'd say about a mile and a half away. However, when you're going back and forth between panels and then you're counter-programmed against that, these were all just located in one section of the city that wasn't heavily trafficked by a lot of people. A lot of people weren't going to that hotel for anything other than community. Another thing is that there is PR fallout. Who's going to go to this? The people that actually ended up representing themselves, we had some people from Vox, Emerging US, Genius represented there, and obviously Brianna Wu. There was sort of this sense that we need to be there because we know that we're trying really hard, but there was also a lot of personal discussion from the staff about what they've experienced. I think one of the best responses was from one of the reps at Genius when he talked about how they don't feel the heat yet from their community harassing users because they've curated a group of people that are just there to talk about one thing, and he doesn't yet feel that pressure. So I think overall, I think there was definitely a level of interest, but I also think people just are nervous about talking about this in a public forum.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, maybe small groups is the way to go because then you can control them in some way. But yeah, it is. You feel like you say the word Gamergate and all of a sudden, you become a target, which is unfortunate.
Right. And, Gamergate, it goes beyond just gaming. Women are experiencing this on a multitude of platforms, and anybody from any group and when it comes to women can talk about a specific type of harassment. So I think there's also that, like the larger population of women might not game. So they think that this is sort of only reserved for a section or a faction of women that are actual gamers. But the reality is Gamergate has sort of become, in my opinion, a term that can sort of cut across all of the types of harassment that are represented online. It was disappointing that they weren't there, but it was very interesting that of the panels that were represented, there was a lot of press now talking about what did South by not do their best to make sure that this was attended well? Did they not do right by the panelists? Do I think this is going to happen again? No, I don't even think that this might have been the right venue for it. But I think it did open a discussion. I think there is just a matter of trying to figure out how to have this conversation, protect the panelists, and protect and still have something come out of it that will actually benefit people so they don't feel like they're just sitting there not actually getting a solution.
Well, Wynter, thank you so much for joining us. Wynter is a digital consultant, a podcaster. You've got to check out Pop Rock. It is excellent. I learned so much every episode about all these things that I don't have time to watch, but I don't need to watch them because I get your take and your co-host take that's on the Maximum Fun Network. So, Wynter, where's the best place for people to follow your work online?
Definitely follow me on Twitter at Wynter Mitchell. Definitely follow Pop Rocket if you want to hear my podcast. And there's going to be a lot of things I'm working on going towards into the future. So I'm just getting started, getting fired up.
Thank you so much. Take care, Wynter.
Thank you.
Wynter.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, after the break, Tim is going to tell us everything he knows about the $35,000 Tesla. But first, let's figure out how we might be able to invest the money to buy that $35,000 Tesla.
Good point.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Wealthfront. You invest for the long term, for you or your family's financial health, but trying to do it yourself, especially the right way, is complex and time-consuming. Luckily, you can use Wealthfront. Traditional advisors charge huge fees between 1% and 3% of what they manage. With Wealthfront, you pay 0.25% a year. That's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. You can get started investing today with as little as $500. It's not as hard as you think to invest your money instead of spending it on gems and Clash of Clans. Or if you really want Clash of Clans gems, you can invest your money so you can buy more Clash of Clans gems in the future, or you can buy that Tesla Tim's going to tell us about. It's your money. It only takes a few minutes to sign up at wealthfront.com, and it goes right to work monitoring your portfolio around the clock and taking action as soon as the opportunity arises. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view all your accounts in one place, whether they're personal, joint, or retirement. You can also see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, or with their mobile app. I don't know if you know this, but more than 90% of portfolios aren't invested the right way for the long term. But with Wealthfront's new portfolio review, you can see if your portfolio is at risk, how diversified your investments are, what you're losing in fees. You can even minimize your taxes, all for free. Wealthfront's process is based on Nobel Prize-winning academic research and the best investment practices. Now, we've heard from a lot of you who have already used Wealthfront, and you love how they can diversify your portfolio, and you can buy stocks from in-demand companies like a lot of the companies we talk about, Apple and Amazon and Facebook, all commission-free. Wealthfront manages over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every day. What are you waiting for? Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You will see the customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who have seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/TNT.
All right. So, excuse me. My voice just left me. Sorry about that. When Tim Stevens is on the show, we like to take a closer look at some of the awesome automotive stuff he's been writing about on CNET's Roadshow site. So, Tim, we were talking about South by Southwest in the previous interview. It looks like finalists for the Smart City Initiative were announced at the festival. First, I guess explain what the Smart City Initiative is and what qualified cities to take part.
Right. The basic idea behind the Smart City Initiative is that in order for cars to get smarter, in order for these autonomous systems that we all want to come together, not only do the cars have to get smarter, the cities have to get smarter too. And this involves a lot of communications technologies so that the cars can talk to each other and the cars can talk to the city, so that if you are in your municipal DOT and you need to shut a road down, you can basically tell the autonomous cars, don't go down this road because there won't be a bridge there anymore, things like that. And, you know, that takes hardware, that takes software, that takes know-how. And that's going to be a pretty significant investment for a lot of cities to bring that sort of stuff to bear. So the federal government came up with this idea for cities in the U.S., mid-sized cities, to basically come up with proposals on how they would make themselves smarter, and they're basically in the running for $50 million in funding to help that go through. There were, I think, 70-some entries, and at South by this past weekend, Secretary Fox announced the 7 finalists. It was supposed to be 5 finalists, but he said they were so good they had to pick 2 more. So there are 7 cities now still in the running. Each of those cities gets $100,000 to go back and refine their proposal. And then they'll announce which of these cities gets that $50 million grant. $40 million comes from federal funding, your and my tax dollars at work. And then the final $10 million comes from Paul Allen's charitable trust called Vulture. Vulcan, not Vulture. And they are basically going to be contributing $10 million in the effort of basically helping to get more electrified cars on the road and to reduce our emissions overall. So again, $50 million goes to the city that wins, That'll go towards things like wireless repeaters, more hardware for the DOT, and again, a lot of learning, a lot of know-how going into it.
What size do the cities have to be in order to kind of qualify for these? Because I imagine, there's at least some of this stuff happening, in cities in the Bay Area, let's say, or in New York City. Can it be just any city whatsoever? Or?
No, it was only mid-sized cities, so populations are well under 1 million. I think the threshold was 250,000 people at a minimum, and then up to, I think, in the 500 to 750,000 people top. So looking at mid-sized cities, Austin was one of the finalists actually that was picked, and I think Portland was another. So there are, again, 7 cities around the U.S. that have been picked, and ultimately we'll see exactly what it comes to. It won't be going to a major metropolitan area, but whichever city does win is going to get a pretty strong boost because a lot of manufacturers are going to want to come there and test their cars there to make sure that everything works, in a copacetic way. And certainly a lot of wireless technology companies want to go and play in that playground as well. Sure. So it should be a nice kick in the arm for the economy of that city. It's going to cost a lot more than $50 million to make these cities have all the technologies that they need to be fully autonomous. But again, it'll be a nice shot in the arm, and it should be a good first step.
Oh, man, Boise, Idaho didn't even enter. Come on, Idaho. Come on, make me proud. No, I seriously, why don't they do that? It looks like Tesla set a date for a close look at its upcoming Model 3 vehicle. This one, of course, is the model that's priced more for the mainstream, let's say. $35,000 is the price that they've confirmed. What else do we know in advance of the official reveal?
Nothing. That's about it.
Oh, okay.
We really don't know too much.
Okay.
Interestingly, they said that I did get the invite for the event on the 31st, so I will be there. And they, interestingly, in the invite said to come take a spin. So there will be a functional car or vehicle of some sort there. We actually weren't sure if it was going to be a demonstration of the car, if they would just show a silhouette of the car, if it would just be renders of the car. But this is encouraging. That means that they do have something functional for us to see, which is great. But yeah, we are expecting this car to go on the market in 2017. But anybody who's been following the Tesla story knows that they should take that with a bit of a grain of salt and not hold their breath. Those who are interested in this car, they will be able to pre-order the car the next day on April 1st, April Fool's Day, hopefully not a joke. $1,000 down payment will secure your place in line if you do want to get a Tesla Model 3. But the idea behind this car is, this is supposed to be a car for the people from Tesla. The Model S is a very nice car, but it's also a very expensive car. The Model 3 will be, as you mentioned, starting at around $30,000 to $35,000. But what we don't know is exactly what range you will get for that amount of money. Tesla likes to upcharge you as you go for a bigger battery pack. So it's possible that this may be a pretty lean car with limited range for that price. For example, the BMW i3 right now, which has about an 80-mile range, that's a $40,000 car. So Tesla can undercut that and provide significantly greater range and still offer the handling dynamics and performance and everything that we've kind of come to love from Teslas. That'd be a pretty impressive feat. I'm definitely eager to see what they show. I know a lot of people are too. My wife is indeed very keen to see what they show. She wants to put a pre-order down. We'll see how that goes. But I'm very eager to see what they show off. I think it'll be a good time.
Nice.
Do you think there's any way they can have any of the autonomous features that the Tesla has now, that the more expensive ones? Do you think that they would be able to put any of these in a $35,000 car?
I definitely think they could. The cost for those systems, a lot of that is development cost up front and ultimately the learning and testing and everything else that goes into making those systems work. When you talk about actual sensors on the car and hardware on the car, the additional cost there is pretty limited for the type of autonomy that they're talking about. When you get into full-on autonomy, where you're talking about cars driving themselves, laser scanners, radar, and everything else, that gets to be a little bit pricey. But with the Model S, you're basically talking about some proximity sensors and a couple of cameras, and that's the gist of it. And that's not hugely expensive stuff. I could see it being an option package on the Model 3, whereas it's kind of included on the Model S. So maybe you have to pay an extra $500 or an extra $1,000 to have that package on. But yeah, I definitely think that they'll look to bring that technology to the Model 3. At least I certainly hope that they do.
On your roadshow story, you linked to an auto guide, maybe some leaked pictures. Do you think do you think those are real or not?
Nope, absolutely not. That's definitely clearly it's a chopped version of the Model X. Their SUV. It's possible that is kind of an internal concept for some sort of a new small crossover SUV that maybe they're thinking about developing for the future. But no, I definitely do not think that will be the Model 3. We're expecting a sedan, a smaller four-door car, much like the Model S, but smaller.
It's got a a short little hood on the front there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice looking. It's not too bad, but there's actually a press photo of the Model X that you can find that they basically chopped up to make that thing.
Yeah.
And if you look, the shadow underneath the rear bumper is longer than the rear bumper itself. So,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Pretty clearly a bit of a hack job there.
It does look. It has a little bit of the shape of the BMW, though, right? Am I thinking of the right BMW that you were comparing
Yeah,
it to?
it definitely does look a bit like the i3, which has a very, very short nose on it. And again, it is entirely possible that this is some sort of an internal mock-up that they're thinking about using for some new post-Model 3 car. But this is not what I'm expecting to see on the 31st, no.
It kind of reminds me of the light cars in Tron. Finally, kind of. Barely. Autonomous cars, speaking of autonomous cars on the roads, it kind of feels like it's approaching rapidly, but the reality is there are a lot of things that need to happen before it'll become commonplace anyways on the road. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration posted a study looking at the current regulatory landscape and how that might intermingle with autonomous vehicles. What are some of the big takeaways from the report?
It was definitely an interesting week in the field of autonomy. A lot of autonomy experts went to Washington to basically plead for the federal government to standardize things across the country. The big issue that they have right now is that there's a lot of different legislation out there as you go from one state to the next that makes it really difficult to test your autonomous car, nationwide, which is what they need to do to make sure that these things work. 6 states right now have explicitly made it legal for you to be able to test your autonomous cars, but even within those states, there's a lot of variation, whether you need a special license, whether someone needs to be sitting behind the wheel, whether there even needs to be a wheel. These are all sorts of rules and laws that need to be changed, need to be standardized so that the companies in the U.S. can do all the testing that they need to do. The case that they made in Washington this week was basically that, we are leading this industry right now. We're leading this segment. We have an opportunity to continue to do so. But with all these different laws and legislations that we need to worry about, that's slowing us down. And then we are at the risk of having Europe or Japan or somewhere else kind of leapfrog us and become the leaders. So the government seems to be pretty receptive. Secretary Fox in the U.S. DOT and in NHTSA is very, very eager, it seems to be, to work with these autonomous companies. In fact, there was a letter back and forth from Google and the federal government kind of identifying federal safety laws in cars that don't make any sense in an autonomous future. For example, laws like how big the mirror needs to be on the car. And if you have a fully autonomous car, you may not even need a mirror, or another one that states that you need to press the brake pedal before you can be able to shift out of the park in an automatic transmission car. What if there is no brake pedal, or if the car is driving itself, then who's the one who needs to step on that brake pedal? That is in federal legislation right now, and that kind of needs to change in order for this to work. So basically, all these tech leaders are trying to get the federal government to get rid of all these laws that have been on the books for 50, 60 years and come up with something that makes sense and that they can build on going forward.
It's fascinating because you think about, when you talk about the license, the conversation about getting a license, you're basically getting a license to not drive a car.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. And there are special tests involved, and you do get a special autonomous car license. It is interesting. But yeah, that's just one of those things that, if you want to test your car in every state in the U.S., you don't want to have your researchers go and to the DOT at the capital of every single state in the U.S. to get a special license to do so. There's got to be a better way.
Excellent. If you want to hear Tim talk about all this stuff and more, you can on the Autocomplete podcast. So cnet.com/roadshow, or you also said theroadshow.com, right? That works?
That'll do too, yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic. Check that out. All right.
Well, TNT's fan of the day is the fat vegan chef of Twitter, who says he's watching on my TV through my Roku, streaming at Twit all day long.
All day long. Love it.
Nice.
Thanks for watching. You can show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. And don't forget, we also enjoy pictures of pets watching us.
I wonder if there's a way to share this on Mimoto. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I'm sure if there is, you'll figure out a way to do it. Up next, yet another example of how 3D printing is changing the face of, well, in this case, your face. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode. That's ScoreBig. What's the next big event that you want to attend? You want to see Book of Mormon? Check. You want to see The Boss in concert? Check. You want to see your favorite baseball team shoot some hoops on the 50-yard line? or maybe each of those sports individually, and yes, I mangled them on purpose. Check, check, and check. Finally, if you have a family and you haven't already heard Let It Go enough times in the morning, afternoon, evening, in the car, on weekends, at the beach, in your sleep, then heck, Frozen on Ice might be your cup of tea. And of course, Tame Impala, not a show featuring a relaxed vehicle, but rather a freaking awesome band from Australia. Yeah, I'm seeing them later this year, and I'm stoked, thanks to Score Big. Look, whatever your preference, you can bet that there's a way to pay less for better seats. Just go to scorebig.com. 40% of all live event tickets go unsold. Scorebig is making it easy to attend live events by working directly with your favorite teams, your favorite artists, to get their unsold seats at unpublished prices. At scorebig.com, you're always guaranteed huge savings by paying much less than what the box office charges for tickets. They have great deals on tickets to concerts, sports games, Broadway productions, family-friendly events, the whole 9 yards. And to take advantage of these deals, all you got to do is go to scorebig.com. You find the event and the seats that you want, and then you can make an offer with Scorebig's Name a Ticket Price feature. You'll get an answer from Scorebig instantly, and you'll save up to 60% on your tickets. You also have an option to pay a fixed price, which is much less expensive than major online ticket resellers. Now, with Scorebig, there are no surprise fees. You get free shipping. You can even favorite shows and events so that you'll be notified when upcoming dates are released so that you can go to them, which is a very convenient feature. Quit overpaying for tickets. Get the tickets you want at prices you can afford with Scorebig. The next time you're planning to go to a game or a show, visit Scorebig first and see how much you can save. Go to scorebig.com, click on the microphone, and enter promo code TNT to save an extra $20 off your first ticket purchase. That's scorebig.com, promo code TNT.
You can watch our live recording, and you get all kinds of behind-the-scenes access to our conversations, including one Jason and I had just yesterday about the need and cost of braces. And today, one man proved that you don't need costly dental surgery or orthodontic surgery or orthodontics at all. He open-sourced his face. 3D environment artist he made a mold of his teeth, and then he printed his own retainer. He will walk you through the entire ortho process on his blog, Amos Dudley. Amos Dudley is the 3D artist that did this at amosdudley.com. What do you guys think? Are you guys ready to do this instead of braces?
I'm totally ready to do that, especially if it saves thousands and thousands of dollars. I still haven't bought a 3D printer, and this is yet anotof great reason that I need to do so.
Yeah, go ahead and scroll down even further, Kara. There's a before and after picture.
Yeah.
The before one's kind of gross. Yeah, keep going. You'll get to it, and you can kind of see side by side what somebody, there we go, before, just look at that mouth. Before, the teeth are crooked, and after, oh man, just shiny and straight. And
brushed and
yes,
and
maybe brushed also. I don't know what's going on in that first picture. But anyways, just the thought that you could take this into your own hands and be like, you know what, I'm going to make something on my 3D printer that's actually going to straighten my teeth and save me literally thousands of dollars depending on what you need to get done. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he said it only cost him $60. That doesn't include the 3D printer or his education.
You got to invest in a 3D printer, and then it's like it's printing money.
Right. He has some technical skills also. In the comments, some people asked well, are you taking orders? And he and several other people pointed out it's actually illegal.
Yeah, I was going to say you probably can't
practice medicine on other people without a license, but on yourself. Feel free. Do whatever you want to your teeth.
What if he moves to Canada?
Oh, really? You can practice medicine without a license?
I don't know. I mean, if it's across international lines, does it change?
I don't know. You're close enough to Canada. Why don't you go find out?
I'll go find out. Hang on, I'll report back.
Yeah, please. Go do that right now, and we'll see what you find out.
Next time we check in with you, you'll be doing home dentistry and reporting on the state of the automotive industry.
Canadian flag hanging behind me as well.
So he can't sell these, but he can open source it, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. Is that good that you can open source health stuff that you can't actually sell
in your garage?
I guess it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose your mileage may vary.
Yes. Well, Tim, it is always a pleasure to have you on to discuss everything from cars to home dentistry.
In Canada.
We've talked about a lot of what you're working on. Is there anything else that we missed?
Well, the big thing coming up is the New York Auto Show. It kicks off next week. Wednesday and Thursday are the press days, but look for a lot of news coming on Tuesday as well. I'll be down in the city, and we'll be doing live reports from the show. So check us out again at theroadshow.com or cnet.com/roadshow. And I'm Tim_Stevens on Twitter if you want to keep in touch with me directly.
Awesome. Always a pleasure to get you on, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, man. All right.
Thank
Tomorrow's guest will be Liberty Madison, that tech girl. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us. That's tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT show. And you can find the show on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
So thank you for watching and listening to The Bitter End. You can to our show.
Wasn't that bitter?
The end is bitter.
It was pretty
because
jovial,
it's over.
actually.
It's
bitter because it's almost done.
end.
Okay, I got you. All right.
You can subscribe to our show to watch all the bitter ends at twit.tv/TNT. If you have an Amazon Echo, you can ask her to play Tech News Today on TuneIn, just like this. Alexa, play Tech News Today on TuneIn.
You did that on purpose.
I did. You can also find us on Facebook.
No.
Facebook.com/TechNewsToday. This is a new page. If you liked our old one, come like this one too. If you have comments on anything we talk about on the show, leave them there. You can also follow me on Twitter. I am at Megan Morrone.
I have a feeling you're going to hear from some people on Twitter. I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole, and all the folks, every single person, all 20 of them working behind the scenes right now to help us produce this show every single day. Thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.